Tonight, our gaze turns north, to Canada, a land of vast landscapes and vibrant cities. We'll be exploring a unique intersection of business, politics, and international relations. A nation that stands as America's steadfast neighbor and long-standing ally, sharing not only a border but also deep economic and cultural ties. But in the world of business, where fortunes rise and fall, even the closest relationships, built on years of trust and mutual benefit, can unexpectedly shift and evolve. The Trump name, once a global symbol of luxury, ambition, and unparalleled success, became a brand that developers eagerly paid millions to display, hoping to associate their projects with its prestige and allure. In Canada, Trump-branded towers rose prominently in major cities like Toronto and Vancouver, promising residents and investors alike a vision of unparalleled luxury and sophisticated urban living. But this is not just a story of success. It's also a narrative of dramatic change and unexpected turns. When Donald Trump made the unprecedented move from real estate mogul to the world of politics, the very meaning and perception of the Trump brand underwent a profound and irreversible shift. The ensuing political turbulence and social divisions in the United States inevitably echoed across the border, reverberating within Canadian boardrooms, investment firms, and city councils. Business leaders, government officials, and stakeholders across various sectors suddenly faced a new and complex reality. The Trump name, once synonymous with success, was now increasingly viewed as controversial and politically charged. As a result, contracts were carefully scrutinized and in some cases terminated, and the prominent Trump name was systematically removed from buildings and properties across Canada. Deliberate and calculated moves that were often a direct response to his actions and policies during his presidency. These actions reflected a broader trend that was taking hold across the international business landscape, a growing wave of corporate and civic distancing from the Trump Organization and its associated brands. In this analysis, we'll meticulously examine the timeline of events, identify the key players who shaped these decisions, and dissect the official statements and justifications behind these significant actions. This serves as a compelling case study in understanding how a political legacy can profoundly reshape a commercial empire and its global reach, even within the borders of a friendly and allied nation like Canada. What specific deals and partnerships were in place? What exactly changed in the dynamics of these ventures? And most importantly, why did these shifts occur? The unfolding events in major Canadian cities like Toronto and Vancouver ultimately became emblematic of a much wider international reassessment and reevaluation of the Trump brand and its global standing. The intricate story of Trump's business ventures in Canada is far more than just a tale of real estate and property development. It serves as a crucial lens through which we can examine the evolving dynamics of the U.S.-Canada relationship in the modern era. It poignantly illustrates how a political career and its associated controversies can have profound and lasting consequences for the world of business, particularly for a business empire that is so heavily built on a single, powerful, and globally recognized name. The facts as they stand are undeniably clear. The Trump brand's chapter in Canada ultimately ended not with a dramatic and explosive event, but rather with a quiet, calculated, and strategically planned retreat from the Canadian market. The iconic gilded letters that once adorned the cityscapes came down, one by one, signaling the end of an era and the beginning of a new chapter for these properties. So, let's delve deeper and see exactly how it all unfolded, examining the key decisions and turning points that led to this outcome. Before entering the world of politics and captivating global headlines, Donald Trump was, first and foremost, a real estate brand. He cultivated an image of luxury and success, stamping his name on properties across the United States. In the early 2000s, that carefully constructed brand ventured north, entering the Canadian market with ambitious plans. It was a strategic move to extend the Trump empire beyond U.S. borders. Rather than directly investing in construction, the Trump Organization opted for a licensing model, lending its name and associated prestige to local developers. This allowed for expansion with less direct financial risk. Trump didn't own or build these towers in the traditional sense. He wasn't the one pouring concrete or hammering nails. Instead, he sold an image of opulence, a promise of high-end living and exclusive status that the Trump name supposedly guaranteed. It was about selling a lifestyle, not just a building. Toronto and Vancouver, two of Canada's most vibrant and cosmopolitan cities, became the primary stage for this branding strategy. These were markets ripe for luxury development. In Toronto, Talon International Development took a significant gamble, building a luxury hotel and condo tower bearing the Trump name. They were betting that the Trump name, with its connotations of wealth and success, would be a powerful magnet, attracting wealthy buyers eager to invest in a piece of the Trump lifestyle. Simultaneously in Vancouver, the Holborn Group launched a similar, equally ambitious project, a visually striking tower designed by the renowned architect Arthur Erickson, seamlessly combining a luxury hotel with high-end condominiums. It was a statement piece intended to redefine the Vancouver skyline. Both of these high-profile projects relied heavily on the Trump brand as a seal of exclusivity, a mark of distinction that set them apart from other luxury developments. The launches of these towers drew considerable fanfare and significant investment, fueled by the allure of the Trump name. At the time, the Trump name was still primarily linked to TV fame, thanks to the success of shows like The Apprentice, and a long-standing reputation for real estate success, building a perception of business acumen and luxury living. Crucially, at the time these deals were struck, politics weren't yet a significant part of the equation. Trump was a businessman, not a politician. Developers viewed the Trump brand as a valuable shortcut to achieving premium pricing for their properties and attracting international attention from wealthy investors. These towers, standing tall against the Canadian skylines, represented the peak of Trump's brand appeal in Canada, a symbol of a globalized luxury market where a famous name, carefully cultivated and marketed, could genuinely add significant value to a real estate project. However, the brand's fortunes and its perceived value would soon undergo a dramatic and unforeseen shift. The seeds of controversy, though perhaps imperceptible at the time, were already sown, quietly waiting for the opportune moment to sprout and take root, threatening the foundations of these deals. What began as a seemingly straightforward business deal, a mutually beneficial arrangement, would ultimately transform into a cautionary tale, a lesson in the unpredictable nature of branding and the impact of external forces. The Trump name's Canadian experiment, once a symbol of luxury and success, was about to face its biggest and most unexpected test, a trial by fire that would reveal the true strength or fragility of the brand. The Trump International Hotel and Tower Toronto, a gleaming monument to luxury and ambition, promised to redefine the city's skyline. It stood as a testament to global branding and high-end real estate, a beacon visible for miles. But beneath the shimmering facade, the project faced trouble from the start. The grand vision soon encountered a harsh reality. Financial woes, including cost overruns and funding gaps, led to significant construction delays, pushing back the opening date and creating uncertainty. The meticulously planned schedule began to unravel, and despite initial interest, unsold condos began to accumulate, casting a shadow over the project's financial viability. The luxury market proved more challenging than anticipated. These challenges led to investor lawsuits and widespread disappointment as the promised returns failed to materialize. The legal battles added another layer of complexity to the already troubled project. As Trump's political rhetoric intensified on the global stage, the association with his name became increasingly problematic. The brand, once synonymous with luxury and success, became a liability, tarnishing the tower's image and alienating potential buyers. Toronto's mayor John Tory publicly called for the name's removal, adding to the pressure on the developers and owners. He stated firmly that the Trump brand didn't reflect the city's values of inclusivity and diversity, sparking a wider debate about the tower's place in Toronto. Protests and civic embarrassment followed as citizens voiced their disapproval of the Trump brand's presence in their city. The Trump Tower became a symbol of controversy, a constant reminder of the political divisions and ethical concerns surrounding the Trump name. In 2016, facing mounting debts and dwindling prospects, the project fell into receivership, marking a significant turning point in its troubled history. The property was put up for sale, attracting interest from various investors eager to acquire the landmark building. Ultimately, the new owner, JCF Capital, stepped in to take control of the distressed asset, signaling a new chapter for the tower. Recognizing the need to distance the property from the toxic Trump brand, JCF Capital quickly bought out the Trump organization's management contract. In a symbolic move, the Trump name was removed from the building in 2017, erasing the association with the controversial figure. The building underwent a complete rebranding, shedding its former identity and embracing a new image. This was a clear and decisive rejection of the brand, a statement that its values were no longer welcome in Toronto. It was a message sent by Canada's business community, prioritizing ethical considerations and local values over global branding. The Toronto Tower story serves as a cautionary tale showing how quickly and dramatically a brand's value can be eroded by factors beyond just financial performance. It highlights the powerful impact of both financial failure and political controversy on a brand's reputation and long-term viability. The gilded letters came down, one by one, a visual representation of the brand's fall from grace. It was the final act in closing a troubled chapter, a symbolic end to a period of controversy and uncertainty. Toronto moved on, embracing a future free from the shadow of the Trump brand. And the Trump era ended quietly, without fanfare or regret, replaced by a sense of relief and renewal. The lesson learned in Canada is clear. Brand reputation is paramount, and corporate integrity holds immense value. And sometimes, as Toronto discovered, a name is just too costly to keep no matter how gilded it may be. In Vancouver, the Trump Tower opened in 2017, just as Trump became U.S. president. The timing sparked protests and political backlash. Mayor Gregor Robertson urged the developer to drop the Trump name, calling it a symbol of intolerance. Despite public pressure, the Holborn Group kept the branding, citing contracts. The controversy never faded, and the hotel struggled. In 2020, the pandemic hit, and the hotel closed for good. Bankruptcy was the official reason, but many blamed the toxic brand. Years of protest and political condemnation had taken their toll. The Vancouver Tower became the second major Trump-branded failure in Canada. The message was clear. The Trump name no longer meant success. Trump's exit from the White House didn't repair his brand in Canada. The January 6th Capitol riot accelerated the final break. Holborn Group, developer of the closed Vancouver Tower, moved to end all ties with the Trump organization. This wasn't about money. The hotel was already shut. It was about reputation and principle. Holborn's public statement made clear, the Trump name was too toxic to keep, even dormant. Other Canadian companies, like the Royal Bank of Canada, also reviewed their Trump ties. The business establishment had made its choice: move on from the Trump brand. The last connections were severed, decisively and publicly. In Canada, the Trump era was over. Canadian leaders didn't mince words. Toronto's mayor called the Trump name inconsistent with the city's values. Vancouver's mayor linked it to intolerance and discrimination. These statements amplified public pressure on developers. Media coverage was extensive and factual, documenting every twist. The rejection of the Trump brand was a public affair, debated openly and chronicled by the press. The record is clear: the brand became incompatible with Canadian values. The Canadian failures damaged the Trump organization's global image. If the brand couldn't survive in Canada, its prospects elsewhere looked bleak. The core business, licensing the Trump name, was now a risk, not an asset. Developers worldwide took note. The brand attracted controversy, not customers. Global media amplified the story, turning Canada into a cautionary tale. Since then, no major new Trump-branded projects have launched internationally. The Canadian experience chilled the market for Trump deals everywhere. The political legacy had permanently altered the brand's value. The Trump saga in Canada reveals the limits of cross-border business. Canadian companies showed they'd prioritize values over profit when a brand became too divisive. The episode set a precedent: reputational risk matters. U.S. brands eyeing Canada must now consider more than just the bottom line. The Trump years left a mark, showing how U.S. politics can impact business abroad. Future partnerships will face more scrutiny, especially for brands tied to political figures. The border is more than a line. It's a filter for values and reputation. The Trump brand's fall is a lasting reminder of that reality. The Trump brand's Canadian story is one of transformation. What began as a symbol of luxury ended as a casualty of politics. The facts: both major Canadian projects failed, undone by controversy and public rejection. Canadian businesses and officials acted decisively, cutting ties and making their stance public. The global market took notice. The Trump name was no longer a guarantee of success. The empty spaces on Toronto and Vancouver's skylines are a quiet testament to a legacy redefined. In the end, Canada decided the Trump brand was no longer welcome, and the world listened.